Welcome to Consumer Talk, and consumer journalist Wendy Knowler is with us in studio this afternoon. We're going to be following up on the issue that arose last week and has also been noticeably populating our email accounts for the last few weeks. Some questionable experiences with Macro's online platform. Wendy's done a bit of digging to just find out more about the scope, and we'll talk about some of the individual problems as well. And then we will have space for some open line calls, I hope, which you can pose a question to us on 021 446 0567 or send a voice note to 072 567 1567. Welcome back, Wendy.
Thank you, Pippa.
And it'll only be 1 hour today, I promise, after last week's bumper budget oops of a show. Before we get stuck into the online shopping story, we have some feedback on the great dishwashing liquid debate. And just to remind listeners who don't know, if you were listening in December, you might have caught the conversation about Sunlight Dishwashing Liquid. I can't remember how it started, Wendy. It was a casual remark or question from one listener saying, my Sunlight Liquid doesn't seem to work as well as it used to. And that triggered an absolute avalanche of sort of Me Too messages saying, absolutely, the recipe must have changed. The product isn't as effective as it used to be. And at the time, Wendy, we were talking about this and saying it would be interesting to do a comparison to look at whether the formulation has changed. And you commented that would be very difficult to do because, of course, it would require somebody having access to the old recipe, an older bottle. Right. Well, lo and behold, a week or two later, I went to go and pack my picnic basket for Kirstenbosch, and I hauled out my old picnic set and found tucked inside it exactly what we were looking for. A years old sachet of Sunlight Liquid that I had tucked in on some or other camping trip. So we thought, great, this is it. We have an old sample that we're going to be able to test in a lab against the new formulation and see whether anything has changed. Wendy, that actually proved to be a case of easier said than done.
Indeed. So I went to one lab in Stellenbosch and said, they do food. And so I said, you're not going to do this? And they said, no. And I said, could you recommend someone? They did some inquiries and found a lab in Johannesburg that does specialize in detergents and has done a lot of work with with dishwashing liquids in general, and obviously has analyzed Sunlight as well. And he was saying, I'd be hesitant to do it because, the active ingredients get replaced over time, new formulations, looking at environmental impact and that kind of thing. So it's difficult to say if just because something has changed that it's less effective. And then I thought, okay, look, maybe I shouldn't put the cart before the horse. Maybe I should actually go to source and send a media query to Uniliver, which has made this iconic product for decades. And say, have you changed the formulation? And if so, what do you say to these allegations that the product is less effective? So Unilever's Executive Marketing Director for Southern Africa, Elizabeth Mokoena, gave us a very detailed description of what had changed and why, and we're going to give the short version here.
Okay, but the important thing, it has changed.
Of course it's changed. Yes. And so
you're right?
Testing it, you are right.
Yeah.
That said that. About 5 years ago, Unilever adopted its Clean Future strategy, said Elizabeth, which, among other goals, seeks to reinvent its cleaning and laundry products using materials that are kinder to the planet, without, this is the key part, without compromising their effectiveness, so they say. Traditional dishwashing liquids contain a blend of anionic surfactants.
Okay? That was the sort of the trigger ingredient. Okay?
Yes, requiring lots of these surfactants to deliver good cleaning and foam. I think there's also an expectation from consumers that it's got to foam a lot to kind of trigger to us that it's doing its job.
Okay.
So traditional ones have a lot of these anionic surfactants. Mokoena told me that the new Sunlight is now formulated to include lower levels of these fossil-based anionic surfactants than before, and higher levels of naturally derived ones with biodegradable and renewable polymers. In 2003, the formulation was again changed to
2023. Sorry,
what did I say? 2003. Oh, I'm so sorry.
2023.
That's a big 20-year mistake. 2 years ago, the formulation was changed to include 2 naturally derived bioenzymes, which she says are highly effective proteins in removing encrusted food stains, one of the most challenging stains to tackle. Of course, Uniliver is adamant that the new version delivers an equivalent clean and foam to the old one, while also being better for the environment. She says we have consumer evidence that our current formulation is preferred to the previous Sunlight, as well as our leading competitor on overall opinion and many key attributes. So, I have to say, speak to a lab which tests dishwashing liquids and also, interestingly, formulates them as house brands.
Okay, so the Checkers label, Pick and Pay label, dishwashing liquid,
exactly,
sachet type thing. Okay.
And he said Sunlight does remain the market leader as far as he's concerned in terms of efficacy.
That's interesting.
So use or don't use the information or the product. There is, you can go into any Facebook group where people, the village, or I'm not sure about the village, I haven't checked there, but certainly One Family, One Stockpile, there will be loads of people who are adamant that it's not as effective as before. So we were trying to get to, let's put science into it rather than, perception can be wildly inaccurate. But whatever you believe, those were the facts as far as we could ascertain them. And as I say, if the testing won't, certainly at the labs I spoke to, won't get us any closer to, giving a scientific response to is it as effective?
Because it's been a complete change of ingredients by the sound of things. Okay.
So the answer is yes, it's changed. And the consumers can take this information and then continue to be their own judge of whether it works as well or not.
Yeah. Exactly. Now, I want to just respond to Andy's message saying, did you know that the Sunlight bottle is not recyclable? That's no longer accurate, is it?
No, it's definitely
it is
not.
recyclable now, isn't it? The packet refills. I'm not sure about the packet refills, but the bottles are, as far as I'm aware.
The sachets, generally, most of them aren't, but one of them, because, I sit on that as a judge on that packaging awards, one of them entered last year. It is now recyclable, and I need to just quickly do some research during the show or during the break as to which one that is.
Okay, so I've just Googled while you were speaking there, because I was pretty sure, I'm married to somebody who works in packaging, and I was pretty sure that Sunlight bottle is recyclable. Unilever's website reads, while all bottles in the Sunlight range are recyclable, which means they can be recycled back into new plastic, the 750ml and 400ml packs are the first to be made using 100% recycled plastic.
Yes.
So they're made out of recycled plastic, and they are still further recyclable
They've been
back into the chain.
Increasing that rPET recycled PET content over the years because they keep entering them into this competition.
Okay.
And yes, I can definitely confirm that it's made. So it's a loop. They're making the new bottles from 100% recycled content, and then you can in turn then keep that circle going
back into the stream. Okay. So Andy, it might have been your comment might have been factual at one point, but it isn't any longer. The bottle, as it currently goes onto the shelf, is not only recyclable itself, but is already made out of recycled plastic. Mario commenting straight away, I've stopped using Sunlight. It's completely useless these days. And that's his comment. Okay. We're not going to reopen the Sunlight liquid debate. You've had the feedback from Wendy, confirmation that indeed the recipe has changed and changed quite substantially within the last couple of years. And of course, it's up to you to decide whether the formulation in its current state works for you or not. Okay. The main story today, though, is to do with online shopping and specifically some issues with the macro online shopping experience. If you were listening last week, we heard from a couple of listeners who had been struggling to come right with orders that they had placed on the macro website. Many of them, not all of them, but many of them had been festive season purchases which went wrong. There was a 2-for-1 air fryer deal where only one was delivered, a cheap and nasty hose pipe substituted for the more expensive order. Our favorite, Wendy and I, definitely somebody ordered an office chair and instead received a box of biscuits. And Wendy, as we commented last week, both you and I had additional cases in our inboxes. So we agreed it was time to take the matter up with Macro's owners, Massmart, and find out if there was some kind of major systemic problem or service failure, or if this was related to increased traffic over the festive season. What did you find out?
Okay, so I first raised this with Brian Laroni, who is Massmart's Senior Vice President of Group Corporate Affairs. I reached out to him in the middle of January when I started to see this uptick in the number of festive season orders that had gone wrong or were late, or both. And I said, have you experienced any particularly challenging delivery issues this past festive season? And his answer at the time, this was in mid-January, was there was very high demand, but there's no evidence of a systemic online delivery problem. But as you say, it came up in Consumer Talk Extended last week.
Yeah.
And based on what I was seeing in my inbox and you and yours, I thought let me compile them into an email and send it off, which I did to Brian. And I said, what is the story with the missed deliveries? Late deliveries are the usual issue with these online orders, but our collection of complaints suggested something more fundamental is going wrong with the fulfilling of these orders. How on earth does a box of biscuits get sent to someone who ordered and paid for an office chair? That was in November, and still Birgit, who was our complainant, hasn't been refunded. I invited him or a macro executive to join us on air today to discuss the cases we've received from listeners and to explain what went wrong and give us some context, but some backstory. He declined,
That's
but
a pity.
He did give us a response, but I thought let's maybe look at them.
Yeah, before we hear the response, let's just recap on what some of those cases looked like, and then we'll circle back to the feedback that you got. Do you want to start with Birgit and her chair?
Sure. So she ordered an office chair on the 21st of November last year, and as we've said, a box of biscuits was delivered. She naturally returned it immediately with the courier. She says, I've been in touch with Macro repeatedly via various communication mechanisms to be given different reasons for the delays. I eventually cancelled the order and requested a refund. Now, after countless follow-ups on the reason for the delay in effecting the refund, I was assured that the refund was on its way, and I'm still waiting.
Okay, so that was the office chair. That was Birgit. We also heard from Jennifer Burke, who had ordered 2 cases of Lion Lager and a tin of Nescafe at the end of November, and the delivery arrived timelessly on the 2nd of December, except there was only 1 case of beer.
And no sign of the coffee.
And she immediately notified Macro of that problem on the WhatsApp channel. She said that didn't work. She then tried email and eventually resorted to tweeting them several times. In January, she received a message saying, good news, you're going to be refunded. But when she reached out to us, that still hadn't happened. Similarly, we heard from our listener, Albert, who had ordered a broom that never arrived. He, too, had not received his refund.
Yes, another interesting one was brought to us by Joan Schmidt, who was enticed by a Hisense air fryer deal at the end of January. So she purchased it off the back of an advert offering a substantial discount of 1,500 Rand if you bought both a 32-litre air fryer and a smaller one, but only one of the appliances was delivered. She told us, I've been in contact with their online support. They put me through to the Cape Gate store, and I've had no feedback from them still. Being a pensioner, I saved money for this because I purchased other small items as well. I'm beyond exhausted and can't anymore. Then Dion Gerson of Milnerton bought also a Hisense issue.
Package deal, yeah.
Yeah, he bought 3 Hisense 32-litre convection microwaves, advertised as being a multi-purpose electronic air fryer stroke toaster.
Interesting.
So he opened the one of the 3. He runs a guest house, and he could see that it was only an air fryer. Didn't have the other functions that were advertised. So he
tried to return them.
Yeah, but they rejected the one that he'd opened, saying that the packaging was damaged and it had dents and scratches. So he says he took it to a Macro store, where a staff member confirmed that the product and its packaging were just fine and that the return should have been accepted.
High priority. You'll be contacted to arrange for collection. Also denied a refund at the store.
And she took particular umbrage at that because when it was in its listing, it was said that the item was returnable either online or at a Macro store. So she schlepped into the Macro store at Cape Gate and was then told no. So, yeah, another example of miscommunication and really, how does a substitute hose pipe happen?
Well, that's one of the questions you put to Brian Leroni. So let's circle back. Again, this is Brian Leroni, who's Massmart's Senior Vice President of Group Corporate Affairs. It's a pity he wouldn't join us on air, Wendy, but he did send you a written statement. What did he tell you?
Okay, he said, our online sales growth has accelerated significantly as we prioritize investment in driving customer value on our macro online platform. This includes ongoing compound growth on the very high year-end transaction volumes that we experienced starting in October through to December. Our view of the available transaction data suggests that it is likely that increased customer complaints to you are the proportional result of exponentially increased online customer traffic rather than an overall reduction in service. This is perhaps demonstrated by the fact that our online order fulfillment service levels covering pick accuracy and order fulfillment time have improved. This said, we recognize that there's opportunity for further improvement and we are working to achieve this. And this is important because it speaks to some of the cases that we took up. The macro online platform incorporates products that we sell in our stores and which we fulfill from our stores and distribution centers, as well as products sold by third-party macro marketplace sellers. So it's a similar thing that happens on Take-A-Lot.
Yep.
And they allow them, so the returns would go straight to, not via the distribution center, as in the Take-A-Lot model, but would go directly to
the third-party
supplier. Yes, exactly. So then to get to, hold on a second.
On page 5, the individual cases you spoke about. So
cases.
the hose pipe and the poles, let me just take over here if I may jump in, were both cases that fall into that category of third-party marketplace sellers. And Wendy, he said they have immediately taken those up with the third-party supplier.
Yes. There's a key word in there that's robustly. So I think there was some
words have been spoken.
Some cage rattling happened there because, the customer doesn't know where it's coming from. It's just macro, right? So these small guys, and it's important that they have a platform and that they treated well and all the rest, but there's brand reputation at
risk
here.
Yeah.
The biscuits, however, they have to own, because this was a macro thing. What happened was that the waybill that was printed, the biscuit one went on the office chair and the office chair one went on the biscuits. So the dispatchers identified and remedied the error relating to the customer who ordered the biscuits, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't join the dots and think, I wonder what happened to the person who ordered the office chair.
Right.
The biscuits must have gone.
You would think that would be
to
the
them.
obvious next step.
And so it sat there, as Birgit told us. The real kicker is that nobody checked why this chair was just sitting in their warehouse since the 21st of November. It was only located last week.
Oh my gosh, so they identified the first half of the problem and then nobody thought to realise.
And he said, we embarrassingly dropped the ball on the office chair, for which we apologise. So that was human error.
So to summarise, the bottom line is he's saying a proportional increase in complaints linked to a proportional increase in the number of customers. We are doing more deals, therefore mistakes will happen proportionally at a larger degree as well. Do you buy that, Wendy? If your trade online has increased so exponentially, surely you need to increase your manpower for dealing with such orders exponentially.
Yeah, and I think for me, what made these unusual and really want to take them up was the order substitution, because I don't often get that and not a rash of them. So it was the hose pipe and the poles were really bad, wrong sizes in the one case and a completely different brand and quality of product in the other. So, that is unforgivable, and they need to get their third-party suppliers in line, because this is not going to end well if it keeps happening in this way. So that was what really interested me is substitute. We've done so many shows on suppliers that drop the ball in terms of timelines, right?
Absolutely.
That is the normal, and especially around that time of year.
Black Friday,
expect it. But I really sat up and took note when I started getting these substitution complaints. Okay. Yeah.
So we've got feedback on a couple of these cases that have shown some movement. So as you said, Birgit has continued the conversation about her poor chair. She was eventually contacted by a customer service rep who said they would refund her. But Wendy, what the red flag that's still going up for me here is that she was told they wouldn't refund the courier cost portion of her order, which doesn't seem fair.
No, they didn't say they wouldn't. They said it was an error. Sorry, they contacted her today to say sorry about that. So it's still not 100% sorted, but it will be. She told us the woman couldn't explain to me how it happened, but thinks that someone did not read the instruction carefully.
Okay, so Birgit's still holding on to hope that she will receive her full refund.
She definitely will receive it, and Joan got hold of us.
Joan mailed us just a little bit before we came to air to say Joan was the one who'd bought the 2 air fryer deal, but only one arrived. Yes. She mailed us earlier today to say the missing second air fryer has now been delivered. And Wendy, thank you very much for getting involved. Amanda, who was the hosepipe client, has messaged further to say Macro head office contacted me on Monday afternoon to say that they were escalating the return and investigating the refund. Yesterday, we received an email saying the refund has been approved. It remains to be seen when and if we will actually receive the refund, though. Okay, so...
And Albert also got hold of me today to say you must have got hold of Massmart because he got, I'm not sure if he got the broom or the refund, but he was sorted out
sorted out as well, okay. But here come some new ones. Lucinda writes, I ordered 2 hammocks for my Airbnb in December. The incorrect size arrived. I logged a return. I waited 3 weeks for an answer. Logged another return twice, no answer. Took it into the Ottery store who would not accept the return as they did not stock those items. Mm-hmm. So probably another third-party supplier. And she said the hammocks were 440 Rand in December and I'm still sitting with them and don't know what to do. Well, Wendy does know what to do because they've actually made you your own email address, Wendy.
I've got my first non-media corporate email address. It's for me to send to them. So obviously the recipients are all the people that have the mandate to get a fix done. So send them on to me. And I will forward them to Wendy Knowler, whatever, within Macro.
So Wendy's got her direct access email address to Macro. So Lucinda, please do send us an email. You can send it to Wendy on consumer@knowler.co.za and she will send it on directly to Macro and hopefully get you sorted out with the hammocks. Jenny has also just written in to say the beers were refunded 3 months later in Jenny's case. 3 months to refund her for the case of beer that never arrived.
And I had another case where a woman ordered Sprite Zero cans around Christmas where she was staying at a holiday place, and they sent normal Sprite in bottles. She says because the listing doesn't make it clear between the two or something like that. She was actually sympathizing with the picker on this one, saying that she could understand how that mistake would happen. So I've sent that one on as well because by the time they wanted to fix it, she had moved on from that address and it all got very complicated. So that's another example of a misdelivery.
Okay. But again, this comes down, a lot of the frustration could have been taken out. These situations could have been defused, I think is the word I'm looking for, had there been better communication. And here's another example. Cynthia writing in to say, I ordered a fan from Macro online in December. It was delivered 3 weeks later and was obviously a used fan. Oh, no. I have had the same experience as your previous callers. I never heard from Macro. I phoned, I emailed them daily. I was determined not to give up on this fan, which according to their marketing was marked down from 750 to 350, and I was not going to let them get away with this. I miraculously managed to get my refund last week. It was a fight from hell to get to that point. I can tell you, 2 months of hell dealing with Macro online. I will never make use of them again, says Cynthia in Kales River. And Robin's saying, I'll leave that one for later. Anonymous saying, I won't shop at Macro online again. I won't detail the issues, but the communication is the fundamental problem here. So, Wendy, to your point, okay, the third-party supplier, it sounds like they are having stern words with the suppliers who let them down in some of these cases, but it also sounds like they need to do a fair bit of soul-searching internally about their communications when things go wrong.
As we always say, if you have a service failure and then you compound it with a communication, if you make it difficult for your upset customers to now engage with you to remedy it, or if you don't get back to them quickly enough, if you don't have those platforms and procedures in place, then it's just it never ends well. It just spirals.
You've said this so often.
How many times?
A problem dealt with well can be turned into a win for a brand, but a problem dealt with badly blows up in their face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well summarized.
Okay, so thank you, and thanks for the feedback, those of you who have updated us on the cases. I'm glad to hear that some of them have finally been resolved and refunds issued. And if that isn't the case in your experience, please do pop through another WhatsApp or send an email to us so we can follow up for you. Okay, another one, CJB. I also had problems with a Macro delivery over the festive season where they failed to deliver an item, but my main issue was with the courier company in use. People were appalling, rude, and disrespectful is the comment used. So again, communication issues in how you resolve things when they go wrong. And also, and this is, you're at the mercy of the other people in your supply chain, whether it's the third party supplier or the courier doing the drop off.
Yes, exactly.
I've mentioned this before with regard to FNB credit card delivery. Same problem. Infuriating experience, not because of the bank, but because of their courier supplier. So I hear your point, CJB.
What are the downsides of online shopping?
Exactly. You are at the mercy of several different steps in the chain, unlike walking into the store, buying your item and walking away with it. Okay, a couple of Sunlight Liquid comments. Stephen says, my partner, who is an avid Sunlight Liquid fan, got very upset when I bought MAC dishwashing liquid, but has finally agreed with me that Sunlight has lost a bit of sparkle and I suspect some market share to MAC as well. Jill makes an interesting comment. All of the so-called green products tend to foam less. And I would agree with that, Jill. I'm thinking of shampoos. Many of the sort of green, earth-friendly shampoos,
exactly,
you have the same issue getting a proper lather, and it's because they have stripped out the nasty products that create the lather.
And we have an expectation that we've built up over our lifetimes that it's got to have a lot of foam for it to be effective.
Work. Yeah.
So as I say, there could be, I'm not saying there is, I'm saying there could be an element of perception.
Yeah. I take your point.
Here.
Yeah, because your hair is still clean at the end of the non-latherable shower. It has to be said. Okay, let's go to our first WhatsApp open line, and this one comes from Graham. Says, my partner recently got scammed via online shopping. Doesn't say which provider. Okay. Her bank investigated but would not refund. Is that usual, is Graham's question. It's very dependent on the circumstances of how the fraud happened, Graham.
Very much so. And also if there is this consumer protection worldwide that the credit card companies, or MasterCard and Visa, offer called chargeback that we've spoken about if you've used your credit card. So, which most people do when they're buying online. In fact, if I was shopping online and now didn't have the option to use my credit card, I'd be quite suspicious.
Yeah.
So there is that avenue. If you don't get what you paid for with an online purchase, what happens is you go to your bank's disputes division. You say, I want to lodge a charge back. They then should go to the merchant's bank, and the merchant's bank should then refund the money. But if it's a fly-by-night, complete con artist setup, that's not going to be able to be happened. Well, no, that's not going to. What did I just say? That won't be possible because the funds will have been whipped out, and you're not talking about a legitimate organization. Mm-hmm. So sometimes the bank just is not interested in helping, and there's various factors. But we have had people calling into the show with regard to online orders, purchases gone wrong, and that have said they got their money back via their bank's processes. So it's quite a case-by-case situation.
Okay. It's the same with the phishing scams and the like. Graham, again, a lot depends on whether you were inadvertently, to be sure, but complicit in the fraud. If you, for example, gave a code, a PIN, a one-time PIN, etc., the bank has grounds on which to refuse to help you because you were part of allowing the fraud to happen through your own behavior. I'm not saying that is what has happened in your wife's case or partner's case, Graham, just to be clear, but it's very hard to answer that other than as broadly as we've just done without knowing the circumstances of the incident.
And the name of the retailer.
Yeah, okay. Right. George sent in a comment more as a warning than as a question, but let me share with you what George wrote to me on email. Wendy, because I think it is a good reminder to really read the small print carefully before you settle on a so-called free trial. George says, over a year ago, I downloaded a trial version of Adobe Acrobat Reader Pro. To do this, I had to give my card details. There was no indication that I recall that when the trial ended, an actual subscription would begin, but that is what happened. I only found out about it when I received a notification this weekend that the payment had not gone through due to insufficient funds. When I looked into it, I realized I had been paying a monthly amount of about 45 Rand for nearly a year. And he acknowledges I should have noticed that sooner, etc. But here's the kicker, he writes, I cannot cancel that subscription unless I first make the outstanding payment. And the payment isn't even for the previous month's use of the software, it's for the coming month's use, which really sucks, he writes. Fortunately for me, the card in question is a virtual card that I can fairly easily replace, but I'm going to have to change my card details on all the other platforms I use as well. And he feels that Adobe have been less than honest and forthright in their dealing with them, so he doesn't want to, even if he is able to cancel the subscription,
he doesn't want to have anything to do with it.
He doesn't want them having access to his card details any longer. So his final word is, please put the word out so others don't make the same mistake that I did. It is, I mean, the big red flag is the so-called free trial. If it's a free trial, why do they want your card details?
Exactly. I've even been caught by this. I knew it was for one of these exercise, yoga or something, and I didn't actually, it wasn't even a trial. I knowingly went into it, but I don't think, even me, so I should know better. All people. I don't think I realized that the cost. Somehow it was. I can only imagine it was revealed in quite a sneaky way.
Yeah.
And then when I cancelled it, it carried on for a few months because I didn't do the last step in their cancellation requirement. It was obviously all very carefully set up, and I eventually got out of it, but it was about 400 Rand a month or something like that. What I do know, in our listener's case, there probably was in tiny print somewhere, designed to be missed, the TNC, that it, the trial would end after a certain number of days, and if you didn't cancel by this date, 7 days before or whatever, you would then be billed from month whatever. And I think it would have been there somewhere, completely like Adobe, but not in your face in an unmissable way.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm thinking of, I had exactly this yesterday, a New York Times subscription offer coming through, only 25 cents a month or whatever it was. I remember looking at it thinking that's too good to be true.
Yeah.
And then there, sure enough, in the small print is for the first 6 months, and then thereafter you'll be billed at X amount, etc. So, George, chances are probably that the message was there, but it was conveyed in such a way that it was very well disguised and you didn't notice it. So I'm sorry you had the experience, and I'm really glad it was 45 Rand a month, not 45,000 or 450 a month.
Yeah.
But thank you for raising that just so that we could alert others. A couple of people commenting on the foam issue, Wendy, and to your point, it's so much about perception that we've been trained to believe that the foamier shampoo is doing the better job. Several people pointing out that it's so many of the really nasty chemicals that create the foam. You should be glad that they've been taken out. Karen's comment, it's a big mistake to judge products by the amount of bubbles. In nature, bubbles generally indicate something poisonous. The public love the bubbles.
True.
The manufacturers add all sorts of chemicals to products to satisfy that demand, but they're actually things you don't want in these substances. And if you're someone like me, with all my eczema and allergies, I want the less the better. Yeah. I look at the label, and I want the fewest ingredients with the most uncomplicated names on them to use on my skin. So good point. Philippa making a similar comment regarding the comments about the no bubbles. Look up a product called No Poo by Diva Curl. It's a shampoo which has no bubbles at all but cleans hair wonderfully. A creamier consistency, which can be off-putting if you're used to bubbles, but it works the same and I understand is better for the hair. Hopefully the products you're talking about are omitting the bubbles for health reasons, not just because they're cutting costs. Absolutely. I was thinking of the Enchantrix range, and they've taken out all the parabens, etc. Yes. But it does take some getting used to, and I've works also made this switch very well
with shampoo, and it does take getting used to, because you think, I'm not getting a lather.
This can't be cleaning.
It's not getting the oil out of my hair. I understand, but it actually is. You just got to have a mental switch, and then before you know it, your expectations are completely revised.
Okay, let's just see here. Johan writing in, maybe Wendy can give some advice. I ordered 2 products from Take-A-Lot as Christmas gifts. The delivery date was postponed to only arriving after Christmas. Therefore, I tried to cancel the one product that I no longer needed. But Take-A-Lot still delivered both. I then proceeded to request a return. They incorrectly took back the wrong package, but refunded me the value of the correct package, which is 600 Rand cheaper than the one they should have collected.
No.
So I'm now sitting with a product that I don't want. They have the product I do want, and they've refunded me already for the product I still have in my possession.
My head is hurting.
After numerous efforts via app or telephone, it still hasn't been sorted out.
Okay.
Do you have a Take-A-Lot contact?
Yes, I do. Can I just say, because I'm always bashing Take-A-Lot, that's my job, right? We don't often talk about the good cases because people don't bring them to me. But I had a personal experience of how it should work, and this was probably at the Take-A-Lot just made it the supplier's problem. But I ordered. Finally, I always wanted one, and a few months ago, I think October, I ordered one of those egg maker things, right? Egg boilers.
Yes.
Egg boilers, egg maker. 6 little eggs, and I like the idea because I work from home. I often have boiled eggs for lunch, quick snack. But, I could carry on working upstairs, and when the thing goes bing, then I can run down and, rather than hang out.
Breakfast is ready.
Exactly. So it worked fine, and then it stopped pinging. And you can't. It's not the way it works. Is you can't set your own timer. I'm that generation where I'm like, don't throw it away. Just make it work. I'll set the timer. It'll be fine. But you've got no idea of calculating. It's all anyway. So I logged a return on last Thursday.
Yeah.
On Friday they collected, and I must say I played my part. Not that I needed all the packaging because it's within the 6 months and it's a CPA warranty. You don't need to provide all the packaging. But I had the box, I had the manual, I had everything. Cleaned it all up. They acknowledged, I collected on the Friday, the day after I logged the return, and the money was in my account on Monday.
That's excellent.
I actually must say, I think if it was a refund, it might have taken a bit longer, but because I shop often, I said I'll have a credit.
Okay.
Monday it was reflecting, so that's the 3rd business day.
That's impressive.
It really was.
And that's
impressive.
how it's meant to work.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's end on that positive note. Wendy Knowler, thank you. And to everybody else listening, you are welcome to send a question to Wendy to raise a case by sending an email to consumer@knowler.co.za, spelled KNOWLER.